It's just been grinding my gears for quite some time now because the problem still exists and it's not getting any better in the industry. So stand back, you're about to enter the splash zone. I'm about to get real passionate, which means I'm gonna start spitting. How can it possibly be that 2023 years after the death of Christ, we are still releasing games with a dog shit PC port? How are we not learning from past mistakes, from previous sins of our fathers, from the countless other awful PC ports that have ruined games? Why is this still not only a problem, but actually getting worse? It makes no sense. This is actually a SpongeBob, how many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man moment. It'll be no surprise what prompted this video. It was the Star Wars Jedi Survivor game. I'm sure all of you have read the headlines and seen the reviews about how awful the performance is on pretty much every platform, but most notably PC. Unforgivably bad on PC for most people. Now, I'm currently playing it on PC, and not only was installing it an unbelievable headache because we've entered the age where no one gives a fuck about actual optimization at all, so it was a 128 gigabyte download, and then
Holy
after
fuck.
that was finished, I got fucking slapped double-fisted with the 129 gigabytes of unpacking that needed to come after the 128 gigabyte download. For that fucking file size, I felt like I was downloading another human being onto my computer. Shit had me installing an entire new solar system onto my SSD. I feel bad for anyone, like my heart is breaking for anyone that doesn't have like top of the line internet, because this probably still isn't even done downloading for you on PC right now. You probably still have another week or two on that, baby. You gotta let that shit cook, because it is rough. They don't bother compressing things anymore, I guess, and they just let it take up as much space as possible, as if it's some kind of like achievement if they take up like fucking 140 gigabytes or whatever. It's ridiculous. But that's not even the big point here. So on PC and pretty much everywhere else, you will probably not be getting 60 frames per second. And I know, oh, entitled gamers wanting 60 frames, oh, that's so goofy. Well, bah humbug to you as well, Ebenezer Scrooge. If you're paying $70, this is a $70 game. If you're paying $70 and not even getting the bare minimum of performance, then you are a cuck if you're trying to defend that. When you're paying that kind of money, you should be getting high quality product for it. But there is not a single report I have read from anyone that is able to maintain a consistent 60 frames per second with this title, no matter what you're running. You could be running the state-of-the-art quantum computational technology, absolute, $100,000 hardware, 4090s out the fucking wazoo. I know, I'm so sorry.
Yep.
And you will still not be getting 60 frames per second in this game consistently. Mutahar recently made a video going over it. I'm sure you've all seen all the articles. Most people are getting between 40 and 50 FPS, no matter what they're running. And for a lot of people's machines, seeing 40 FPS is like finding a shiny Pokemon. Getting 40 FPS for some people's machines is a fucking accomplishment in and of itself, deserving of a trophy and a pat on the ass. It is ridiculous. A lot of people are getting 30 FPS. It's just in a terrible state. And one other thing that I should mention with Jedi Survivor, though it doesn't apply to every bad PC port, but it certainly does for this game, is that it uses Denuvo DRM. I'm sure you've all at least heard of Denuvo before. It's become the boogeyman of DRM because it has been shown to make game performance worse. To what extent and exactly how big of an effect it has on performance is always a bit of a toss-up and a case-by-case basis on the game itself, but it does have a proven negative effect on the performance of a game. The reason companies use Denuvo is because they're all so fearful of piracy that they take the nuclear option and choose Denuvo to try and protect it, though even in those cases the games still end up getting cracked and people still pirate them. It just takes them a little longer, which I guess for the company execs might be worth it, but you sacrifice the actual performance of your game for your paying customers in order to give yourself like an extra week of no piracy. But what ends up happening, and I'm getting a little sidetracked here because this is a little off the path that I wanted to talk about with just bad PC ports in general, but Denuvo in particular, what ends up happening is when a game has this and a normal person buys the game, like me, I buy the game, I'm subject to that Denuvo DRM, and that makes my game's performance worse, whereas the people who pirate the game that are taking a week before it comes out, or 2 weeks, whatever, They now get that game without Denuvo, thus their performance is actually better than the paying customers. That's ridiculous. That's so fucking ass backwards, it's laughable. It's almost poetic. In their delusional attempts to combat piracy, they end up encouraging it by offering pirates a better product if you pirate the game than paying customers. It's so wild. And in Jedi Survivor's case, it's even more lunacy because the Denuvo, the DRM, all of it is so extreme that if you try and load this game on what it deems is too many computers, it'll shut you out from even playing the game. Look at this screenshot here. There have been players reporting that because of Denuvo, they've been locked out of the game because it thinks that they're playing it on multiple computers. Thus, it's like, combating piracy. When that's not even what's happening. It's out of control. It's totally out of control. But back to just general PC ports being terrible and like a trend of this going on, it's still unforgivable to even be getting 40 and 50 FPS in this day and age and paying full price for the game, which has become kind of the trend in the industry, which is so weird, and why I'm talking about it, because this isn't like some rare exception. This isn't some unicorn where like, oh man, somehow they fucked up a PC port. How could they have done that? No, this is like super normal. Right now, we live in the time period where it's push it out and we'll fix it later. Just ship it and we'll fix it somewhere down the line and that should be fine. Which is trash. That's horrible business practice. And what's even sadder is the amount of brainwashed drone zombies that defend this and actually attack people that call it out, saying that they're just entitled gamers. How can you be demanding this from developers to get it right off rip, to get it perfect when they ship it? This is silly. You're being a bunch of goobers. Obviously, they're going to fix this game at some point. They treat it like it's a fucking NFT investment or something. Like, oh, it's gonna be great at some point. And yeah, maybe sometimes it does get fixed, most notably Callisto Protocol. That shipped in the worst state I've ever seen for a PC port. It was borderline unplayable with how fucking bad that was, but they fixed it shortly thereafter. But I don't think that's really excusable. I'm glad they did the right thing and made it work, made it functional, but it shouldn't have ever shipped that way. It's not like they didn't know these problems existed. It's not like this all of a sudden came out of nowhere, like, oh my god, there was a fucking ghost in the machine and it corrupted everything right when it launched. No, they would have been aware of it, but they still decided to ship it anyway in that state just to meet the deadline. I'm glad it got fixed, but it doesn't change any of the damage done to the initial buyers here, and it ruined the reputation of that game forever, completely fucking tarnished it, wiped their ass with it. And right now that's happening with Star Wars Jedi Survivor. A game, when it launches, should be in a good state. Bugs, of course, are always going to be there. I never really hold bugs against a company too harsh unless they're obviously game-breaking and like maybe there's an incredible amount of them. But I understand bugs are always going to be present. There are just some things that you can't always get in QA testing. But just performance problems like never getting 60 FPS, constant stuttering, those kind of things, they're there when the game's about to ship. Now, like I said, I want to make this clear. I'm currently playing through Jedi Survivor. I am not experiencing most of the problems that the majority of PC users are with the title. I'm not getting a crazy amount of stuttering. It's definitely there. It is prevalent, but it's not like game ruining or anything like that. And I know I'm not getting 60 FPS. I think I'm more in that 45, 50 FPS ballpark, but I don't really feel like putting up the FPS counter to double check. I just know it's not 60. It's pretty clear. And I'm okay with that playing throughout the game, but I'm not happy that I was charged $70 for a game that can't even reach like the absolute baseline of performance in 2023. I'm enjoying the game because I think the gameplay is good and I'm enjoying the story so far, but I am extremely disappointed in the performance of it. I would obviously like if this game was hitting 60, it would be better. But I'm not having the worst time with it because I've been lucky enough to not experience most of what other PC players are. So I just wanted to get that out there real quick. But anyway, Jedi Survivor developers, they put out a statement today on Twitter, and I want to kind of go over that as well real quick. We are aware Star Wars Jedi Survivor isn't performing to our standards for a percentage of our PC players, in particular those with high-end machines or certain specific configurations. Within the first sentence here, just a full poopy diaper on display. It's not a percentage of PC players, it's all of them, whether it's high-end machine or not. Also, it's not performing up to the standards that you'd expect in 2023 for consoles either. Console performance isn't amazing, it's just PC performance is worse. So that's where most of the conversation has been focused, is on PC. But the entire game itself is so fucking poorly optimized and not great performance. While there's no single comprehensive solution for PC performance, the team has been working on these fixes we believe will improve performance across a spectrum of configurations. We're committed to fixing these issues as soon as possible, but each patch requires significant testing to ensure we don't introduce new problems. Thanks for understanding and apologies to any of our players experiencing these issues. We will continue to monitor performance across all platforms and share update timing as soon as it is available. Star Wars Jedi Team. So this is baloney. We're looking at an actual load of horseradish here. These aren't problems that were brand new once the game shipped. They would have been aware of these. But because of the higher ups at the company, I imagine suffocating, fucking strangling them like Bart Simpson's neck, making sure that they're going to be on time for the deadline, they forced the game to come out as scheduled, as slated, which didn't give them the optimal time to refine the performance problems. Thus, now they're going to have to play catch up and be eating shit publicly for this in the meantime. And even after they fix it, they will still eat shit for releasing a game that was poorly optimized with terrible performance. It's just a lose-lose. Like, the only benefit here is to the higher-ups at their bottom line, like, oh, look at all these day one sales. But then there's going to be a drastic drop-off because of all the negative press, because everyone's talking about how fucking awful the game is because of the performance. No one's talking about the game being good right now. And the game is good. I'm having a great time with it. The gameplay is fucking fantastic. Like, I actually think I'm enjoying the gameplay more than in Fallen Order. But no one's talking about that because everyone's focused on how awful the game performs. That takes precedent over a good game. If you release a game that is shittily made, right? If it doesn't run well, that's all people are going to focus on. For obvious reason. I will just never understand this like speed run to get games out no matter the cost. Come hell or high water, this game's going out there even if we left in all kinds of game breaking problems. Who gives a fuck as long as it's out there in the wild? That's what matters. It's dumb. You would stand to gain far more from a good PC port and a well optimized game. I can't wrap my head around it. I understand that there's so much bureaucracy to it now that maybe it's just totally out of the hands of the developers and really just in the hands of the suits that force it. So there's only so much they can do. I really do think that's probably a large part of it. It's not like the developers want to release a game that they know is in a bad state because they're the ones that catch the most flack for it. I mean, that's just the way it is. So I'm sure they don't like it either. It's just such a shame that this keeps happening with good games. It is very rare to have a good PC port these days, which is crazy to me. I feel like we should have learned from the past, where when you have a good PC port, everybody wins. You get more customers, it has a long life now on the PC as well. It just, everyone wins when you make a good PC port to a game. I just don't understand why it continues to be an issue. Fucking Last of Us, the PC port they released, is a joke. Like, it just continues to happen. Why? I really don't understand why there is not any amount of care given to these PC performances for their games, when there is really only upsides to it. I just wanted to rant about this because obviously I play most of my games on PC. I do still console game occasionally, but it's pretty rare. Almost everything now I do is on PC. So it just always hurts to have such a shitty experience for these good games because they didn't bother to put any amount of polish on the PC port. So I just wanted to rant about that, and that's about it. See ya. Hello there, Moist Charlie Clips Army. Today I want to talk about what is the hardest boss I've ever beaten in a game. Most of you know my favorite genre is Souls-like. I absolutely love the challenge, I love the gameplay of the Souls genre, and I've played every major Souls-like game, and I've beaten every single boss in all of them now. So, well, actually, that's not exactly fair to say. I don't want anyone wiggling their finger to remind me of one or two. I didn't finish all of the Chalice dungeons in Bloodborne. Fucking sue me, alright? I don't feel like going through the goddamn Chalice dungeons. But aside from the Chalice dungeon bosses, I've done every other Souls-like boss. And after the video from yesterday, this boss almost made me rage quit video, I got to thinking, was that the boss that took me the longest to beat and also the most deaths I ever encountered in a video game to one enemy? If you haven't seen the video, it's Jedi Survivor, and I go against an optional boss named Spawn of Ogdo. I died over 100 times, and it took me close to 2.5 hours of constant, unwavering attempts to beat him. This was a true anime main character moment where I just didn't fucking give up. I just kept slamming my head against this brick wall of Ogdo until I finally prevailed and had a breakthrough and won. And I wanted to reflect and see, is that the boss that took me the longest ever? And if it was, what made it so difficult? And I'm going to get into that in a moment, but I just want to off rip let you know, Spawn of Ogdo is a whole bunch of hooey. It's a load of baloney. The design of this boss is dog shit. No matter how you spin it, you're spinning a rotisserie chicken of fecal matter. Spawn of Ogdo, from what I have read, is actually currently bugged. A lot of things that make him so difficult was unintentional and is just the result of a glitch. A couple of glitches, actually. At least according to what I've read. And that sounds about par for the course. If you've watched the video or you watched me stream it last night, you'll probably know exactly what parts are glitched. We'll talk about that in a minute. But going through my history of the Souls-like games, I actually did a marathon of all of them a little over a year and a half ago. So I have fresh data to pull from. So I went to like the ones that stick out in my head. For Dark Souls 3, I know the boss that took me the most attempts was the Nameless King, embarrassingly. He was feeding me my vegetables. It took me roughly 20 attempts to kill the Nameless King. Oh! For Demon Souls, I know the boss that took me the longest to beat was the Armored Spider, which is also fucking shameful. It took me, I think, right around 15-ish attempts to kill the Armored Spider. I'm just gonna stand in front. I don't think that's a bad idea. For Bloodborne, and this is usually the boss I say is the hardest boss ever in any game I've played, it was Orphan of Kos, and it took me 28 attempts to kill the Orphan. I've always said Orphan of Kos is the hardest boss in any of the Souls games, and up until recently I believed that. Oh my god, fucking unlucky. Dodged the wrong way. Now for Sekiro, this is where things get very interesting. So, on my first playthrough of Sekiro, it actually took me over 4 hours to defeat the true final boss, Ishin the Sword Saint. Over 4 hours of attempts. I never cracked 100 deaths because the battle was much, much longer. Ogdo kills you in one shot if you get hit by anything. Any single move from Ogdo instant kills you, whereas in Sekiro, not only do you have a respawn mechanic, but it also doesn't one-shot you with every move. So the attempts lasted longer. I didn't take over 100 deaths, but it took me almost double the time to kill Ishin than it did to kill Spawn of Ogdo. So close! Sweet Jesus Christ. Alright, good practice, warm up. Now interestingly though, when I went back for the marathon and fought Ishin Sword Saint again, it only took me 13 attempts, so I improved drastically. But now to the most recent game, Elden Ring. Elden Ring is actually where we find the other two bosses that took me the most attempts out of the whole series, or the whole genre. And the first one is Malenia, of course, a classic. Malenia took me 33 tries to beat, which was just over an hour and 45 minutes, roughly like 2 hours. So a little quicker than Spawn of Ogdo. No reason to risk it. Gotcha, let's fucking go! Sub 35. I think that was run number 33. But then we get to who I consider now to be probably the hardest boss I've ever fought against. And that was Release Radahn, no summons. It took me over 66 attempts on Radahn. I already forgot how you fucking say it. Over 66 attempts in well north of 2.5 hours. He's gonna do a giant gravity pull. Oh, nope, that's new. Oh! Was that like a change-up pitch? So, Radahn, going into Jedi Survivor, was the boss that took me the most deaths and most attempts, except for Ishin Sword Saint. That one's still just on a whole different level. I must have been hit by a stupid beam because I could not beat him when I did my first playthrough of it without cheesing him. And it took me 4 hours. But when I went back, it only took me 13 tries. So the data's a little skewed there, but those are going to be the top contenders. Radahn, Ishin Sword Saint, and Malenia. Those are really the three that Spawn of Ogdo had to compete with. And when we look at the number of deaths, I took more deaths to Spawn of Ogdo than all three of those bosses combined. I lost count at over 120-something deaths against Spawn of Ogdo. And it's because the game not only loads extremely quickly, which is a great thing, but like I said, everything insta-kills you, so you're always restarting and going right back to the beginning. So all of the attempts are just rapid fire. They're able to just really rack up quickly. So now let's talk about why Spawn of Ogdo was so difficult for me, and not just me, for pretty much everyone. I'm obviously playing on the highest difficulty, Jedi Grandmaster, so like I said, everything one-shots you. I'm not too upset about that, though I wish there were a couple of moves that didn't, like his normal attack, which comes out like in literally like one frame. It's like a frame one attack with no delays, and even when you parry it, he can immediately just do it again, and in fact, he does multiple times. So his normal attack is just like a normal bite, which once you get the timing down, you can parry, but it's fucking worthless because he has no stagger window, no stance break, no actual punish opportunity with his normal attacks. So if you parry both of his bites, which he usually does back to back, so one chomp, two chomp, and you parry both of them, you can't actually punish that because he can just do it again before you can finish your attack animation. Sometimes you get lucky and it stalls a bit so you can get a punish in there, but it's never worth risking because you can insta-cast it again. Also, towards the end of the fight, he can do it 4 times in a row. So you can go 1 bite, 2 bite, 3 bite, 4 bite. And if you try and parry all of those, you still can't punish him because you can just start the whole chain over again. What makes Ogdo so difficult is there's never an opportunity to punish him. And he has, I think, 5 unparryable, unblockable moves that, of course, all one-shot. So I just had this clip playing here. It doesn't really showcase too much, really. But one of his moves is this charge, which you have to jump over. You can't dodge because it's a fucking homing missile. It can read your mind and it will always hit you if you try and dodge. So you have to jump over it, and you can't actually punish him at the end of it because this is one of his bugs. After his dash, he can insta-cast any move, whether it's the unblockable bite that you have to dodge, which you won't have time to dodge if you try and punish after his charge, or his normal bite, which you won't have time to parry or dodge if you decide to try and punish after his charge. So, the charge is a big frame trap, it's just a complete bait. If you try and punish after his charge, you die. Every time without fail. Which is so counterintuitive because in every other Souls game, and not just Souls game, but just every other game in general, if you dodge someone's big charge, it leaves them open for a punishable opportunity, a window. That doesn't exist with Spawn of Ogdo. And also you can only ever get one attack on Spawn of Ogdo before he starts his next set of attack chains. So it's just a really long, tedious fight regardless. You can only ever get one opportunity to attack in between moves. And there's only 2 punishable moves that I was able to pick up on. That is his dodgeable bite. So that's his unblockable that you have to dodge bite. You can get 1 attack, 2 if you're really quick on that. But that's very rare. And then his other one is the acid tinkler, like he vomits out acid. You can get a punish in there as well, but not a big one. So those are really your only 2 opportunities. Everything else you're parrying or dodging, but parrying's worthless because you can't punish off of a parry against him and you can't break his fortitude or anything. So the only reason you're parrying is so that way your block stance doesn't break. And you can try and keep distance to let it slow regen, but it's not really worth it either because he is so quick. The boss is just fucking bullshit. Also, to everyone in Twitch chat that just kept saying, why not spam lightsaber throw? You can't on Jedi Grandmaster difficulty. Your force powers don't regen. You only get your force back through normal attacks landing. So I have to be attacking in order to be able to do the lightsaber throw. So I can't just endlessly spam it or anything like that. So one of the other glitches right now is with another attack of his tongue. His tongue is undodgeable. So if you try and dodge his tongue, you will get hit every single time. There's only 2 ways of avoiding it. 1, getting out of range, or 2, jumping over it. But it's not really intuitive to jump over his tongue because it seems like it should still hit you, but it doesn't. So you can only jump over it or get out of range. If you try and dodge it, it's going to kill you every time, and of course it's an insta-kill. Spawn of Ogdo, with all of this in mind, I don't want this video to be like fucking 30 minutes of me just whining about this one boss. But Spawn of Ogdo is now, based on all of the data I've collected, looking through VODs and full streams, is now the boss that I've taken the most deaths on before defeating, with well north of like 120 something deaths, which is crazy that it came in Jedi Survivor. It's a fucking wild boss. It is an unfair boss and an unfun fight. It is not a fun fight, and it doesn't function the way I think they intended it to. Like I mentioned, there's 2 reported bugs with it. At least that's what people are assuming is going on. But god damn it, I fucking did it regardless, and I know a lot of other people have as well. There is a cheese that exists with it, but that cheese doesn't quite work on the highest difficulty, and I wouldn't cheese a boss like that anymore. I learned my lesson with Ishin because I felt so bad cheesing him to beat him. I would not do that again. So I did it the old-fashioned way: blood, sweat, tears, and elbow grease. I fucking took it to Spawn of Ogdo. It may have taken me over 100 attempts, but god damn it, we got there. We got there. And it is not the longest time I've spent on one boss. That honor still belongs to Ishin. So anyway, just wanted to clear that up and get one video together to put all of the hardest boss fights into one thing and now have a conclusive winner for which one took the most attempts. It's Spawn of Ogdo, which is crazy. It took me more attempts on him than fucking Manus in Dark Souls 1, Nameless King Dark Souls 3, fucking Radahn, Malenia, all of them put together, which is wild. So, yeah, I mean, that's really about it. So, yeah.
Alright, let's get out of here. Alrighty, Roo. tracks ain't bad. All right. I haven't found any followers yet.
Selamat karena bayana kal selamat kaya nambah.
Alright, that's enough.
Badana bantum sabarasta bayo. Walang kampayan na siya na makapal. Bukan nama tombayan ba isedara pon. Unsay tayo dos dapat tantong barapan.
Siya lang bantayan. Ah.
spra. Insetara panpara. Umpatana pantarpa. Sabaras tuganaba. Badana pantarpa. Isadana Bonbara Unsai Taisnoras Bra Usta Patan Tunsampareba Come on.
Dalam kenampayan.
Dalam kenampayan nasional.
Ena nimere dumperra pakan tai. Dunsai tais noras bra. Badana pagusta patan tarja. Kaya Montampa. Wow, yeah. Insa barista bayo. Boom sampareba. Oh yeah. Ukad na ba? Tumbayan ba? Oba. Montam. Bena nemere barabi. Benden başına. It's a bad one, but
Dalam ka lang tayo na.
Dalam kampanye tak kalambayan na. Dalam makanan,